Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot at what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. On today's show, we're taking a retrospective look at this most unusual of years that we call 2021. The purpose of a retrospective is to extract the lessons that these memories can bring us. If you're a lifelong student, then everything that happens can be framed in the context of learning. Sometimes, we humans get stuck in a defensive loop. It's hard to admit mistakes. It's hard to truly take responsibility for things that are seemingly out of your control. If 2020 was a year defined by uncertainty and surprise, then 2021 became the year when we learned to live with uncertainty and surprise. It's easy to be a victim and blame what happened on the pandemic, on rising prices, on supply chain shortages, on tenants who can't pay or won't pay. Another wave of pandemic lockdown was not an earth-shaking change in 2021, but rather a constraint to deal with. So much of what happens is colored by the narrative that we attach to those events. The full spectrum of responses is always available to the exact same circumstance. Some people responded to the lockdown by saying, "I can't work." Others responded with, "I need to adapt and change how I work." Still others said, "I won't allow this to affect if I work." Some people said, "I can't," and others said, "This is an opportunity." Some said, "I have to stay home." Others said, "I can work remotely from a cabin on the beach." Each response was a matter of personal choice. Some things got harder in 2021 and others got easier. Some people chose to wait it out and hope things would return to normal. Others immediately accepted the new reality and adapted their daily decisions to that new reality. As real estate investors and developers, we had a choice. We could see all the uncertainty and hunker down in response, or we could see the opportunity and respond to the very best of those opportunities as they presented themselves. And there were plenty. Those who capitalized on the opportunities did extremely well in 2021, and many of the investors I speak with on a regular basis confirm that 2021 was a banner year for investors. For many of us, 2021 was a year of somewhat limited travel. Some chose to ignore the pandemic and paid for it with their life. I lost one friend to COVID-19, and I know several who suffered long-term impact from it. I don't mean to sound cynical. I truly don't. But my goodness, this year has shown that we need to draw pragmatic conclusions using our own analysis and create safeguards regardless of what's being shared with us in the media. That means it's much harder and takes more work to get to the truth. You simply can't accept things at face value. 2021 was a year when the public's trust in its institutions was further undermined. Was the U.S. federal election stolen? Was it a fair election? Was the January 6th riot a legitimate attempt to overthrow a rightfully elected government? Can social media be trusted? Can the Federal Reserve be trusted? Can our politicians be trusted regardless of which party they belong to? Can insurance companies be trusted? Can our news media be trusted? Can our healthcare providers be trusted? Can our public health system be trusted? Can our allies trust the government's foreign policy? For those still trying to escape Afghanistan, I think we know the answer to that question. See, 2021 was a year that tested even new paradoxes. We had a massive fall in employment and a fall in unemployment at the same time. We had a housing shortage emerge at the same time as we had near record low immigration and record low births. We had a record number of business closures and still a huge shortage of workers. We had things happening at the same time that defied conventional wisdom. Some of those economic relationships historically been treated like laws of the universe, but we've learned that those rules don't really exist. It means we can't rely on mathematical correlation as a predictor of the future. Of course, the astute will recognize that correlation doesn't equal a causal relationship. We learned that when businesses are playing defense, there's an opportunity to play offense. That was obvious in many industries. For example, when the major airlines were playing defense, Southwest Airlines was opening new routes and positioning themselves to take greater market share when the recovery from the pandemic eventually takes hold. We saw food delivery businesses take major market share from traditional restaurants. We learned that the heady days of running business close to optimum efficiency also meant that those businesses could be fragile in the face of real-world business risks. We learned the importance of building resilience and sustainability into business plans. We saw huge problems surface all over the world, and these problems are in fact opportunities for enterprising solution finders. So 2021 is pretty much in the history books. As the year draws to a close, I'm grateful for the lessons of the past year. We made a few mistakes, and we experienced a bunch of delays, and we also made tremendous progress against our long-term objectives. As you run your retrospective on 2021, take the time to capture on paper what you've learned from this most unusual of years. Have an awesome rest of your day. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.